It's a time of the year where the beaches of Sochi are filled with holidaymakers, many seemingly oblivious that not too far away, diplomatic efforts are underway to solve the bloodiest conflict of the 21st century. This is the 10th round of the Astana talks, sponsored by Russia, Iran and Turkey. UN Special Envoy Stefan de Mistura is also here. Much has changed on the ground in Syria since the last round in mid-May. The government has made further territorial gains, recently taking control of the border areas with Jordan and Israel, and the escalation zones in Deraa and the Homs region. Heading up the Syrian delegation, UN Ambassador Bashar al-Jafari looks like a guest of honor. Unlike his usual stomping grounds, this is friendly territory. Talks of removing President Assad or of a transitional government are not on the table here. These talks are not only about Syria, but about solving the conflict while protecting the interests of the many different parties involved in this complicated jigsaw. The battle for the northern province of Idlib is looming. It's where much of the armed opposition absent here in Sochi has been retreating to. This is a great concern for Turkey, which is likely to seek assurances that the fragile ceasefire will continue to be respected by the regime. And then there's Russia. It wants to discuss humanitarian issues, such as the resettlement of millions of refugees.
There are more elements of stability and people are eager to return home. Large numbers are living in neighbouring countries, about 1 million in Jordan, more than 1 million in Lebanon, and 3.5 million in Turkey, not to mention those in Europe. It's also in the interest of Europe to help their resettlement by creating the conditions for that. We understand the process is supposed to be on a volunteer basis, but we must not prevent them from returning.
All part of a message Russia is keen to put out. The war in Syria is coming to an end.
I think that depends who you are. I mean, Assad, for example, has also said that he is nearing a victory. If you are an opposition group, for example, or if you're a militant group like Islamic State or Jabhat Fatah al-Sham that hasn't partaken in peace talks or doesn't necessarily need to agree on any post-conflict scenario, then I think we're going to see some conflicts down the line, even in the event that there is a formal transition between the political parties and actors that are involved in the peace talks.
Behind closed doors, delegates are also focusing on finding common ground for constitutional reforms, one of the many issues that have been elusive so far, whether during these so-called Astana talks or the UN-sponsored ones in Geneva. Hoda Abdel-Hamid, Al Jazeera, Sochi.